Right now, at this exact second, while you are reading these words, your Android phone is doing something you never told it to do. It is not waiting for your permission. It is not asking for your approval. It is quietly, systematically, and efficiently passing your phone number, the same number linked to your bank, your email, your social media, your identity, to a network of apps, data brokers, and advertising systems that will sell it, trade it, and eventually deliver it into the hands of people whose only job is to destroy your financial life. And the most disturbing part? Google designed it this way by default. Let that settle for a moment, because what most people believe about their Android phone and what is actually happening inside it are two completely different realities. You probably think your phone number is private. You shared it with your bank. You gave it to your family. Maybe you typed it into a few apps because they asked nicely. You assumed those apps would keep it safely contained. You assumed that privacy meant something. You assumed that the most powerful mobile operating system on the planet, running on over 3 billion active devices worldwide, was working to protect you. It is not. And the gap between what you believe and what is actually happening inside that device in your pocket is where scammers live, operate, and profit. Here is what most people are not seeing. Your phone number is not just a contact method. It is a master key. A single data point that, once it enters the wrong pipeline, can unlock your email accounts, your bank authentication, your social media profiles, your entire digital identity. Privacy expert Arjun Bhatnagar, CEO of Cloaked, put it precisely when he described how a single piece of information, your phone number, can expose your email address, your family members, your social security number, your credit card, and your passwords. One number. That is all it takes. And your Android phone has been giving it away. Think about what that means for a second. The architecture of the problem starts with something most Android users have never even looked at. Deep inside your device's settings, buried under layers of menus that the average person never navigates, exists a system called the Android Advertising ID, known internally as the AAID. This is Google's built-in tracking identifier. It was originally designed to help advertisers serve you personalized content. But here is where it gets darker. This identifier acts as a connector between your phone number and the broader advertising ecosystem. Apps collect your number. Apps tie it to your AAID. Your AAID connects to a network of third-party trackers. And those trackers feed data brokers who build complete profiles on you. Profiles that end up for sale on commercial databases, accessible to virtually anyone willing to pay a fee. According to research cited by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, that advertising identifier enables most third-party tracking on mobile devices. Disabling it makes it substantially harder for advertisers and data brokers to track and profile you, and limits the amount of personal information available for sale. But here is the critical detail that almost nobody tells you. It is turned on by default. Every single Android device shipped globally comes pre-configured to feed this pipeline. You never opted in. You were never given a clear warning. You were simply enrolled. And this is where everything changes. An Oxford University study found that 90% of Google Play apps contain third-party trackers, quietly feeding sensitive information to advertising networks and analytics firms. Read that again. 9 out of 10 apps on the platform where you download your tools, your games, your banking applications, your prayer apps, 9 out of 10 of them contain embedded trackers that are harvesting your data in the background and transmitting it to external servers. A 2025 investigation found thousands of common apps, from popular games to dating platforms to religious apps, were silently sending real-time location data and personal identifiers through the mobile advertising ecosystem. Not occasionally, constantly, in real time, while you slept. But here is where it gets worse. Research published in mid-2025 revealed that 1 in 3 Android apps actively leak sensitive data through insecure APIs and poor security practices. That same period saw mobile malware surge by 151% from January to June of 2025 alone. Banking Trojans and spyware were outpacing traditional threats, and what used to be a slow, targeted form of digital crime had industrialized into a high-volume automated operation running at machine speed. And your phone number is the entry point that makes all of it possible. The data leakage problem on Android is not a bug. It is a feature of how the ecosystem was built. According to security researchers at Zimperium, 91% of all Android apps write personally identifiable information to local data storage. Your name, your number, your account credentials, written to storage that, while not directly shared between apps by design, becomes fully accessible the moment an attacker gains any form of access to your device. Furthermore, 31% of all apps and 37% of the top 100 apps send personally identifiable information to remote servers, often without adequate encryption. This transmission happens entirely in the background. You have no visibility into what is being sent or where it is going. You have no dashboard showing you which of your apps sent your phone number to a server in another country at 3 in the morning while your phone sat on your nightstand. Now think about the downstream consequence of that. Once your phone number enters a data broker's database, it does not stay there quietly. Data brokers are commercial entities whose entire business model depends on cross-referencing your number with public records, social media profiles, commercial databases, leaked credential sets, and marketing lists. From a single phone number, according to Cybernews researchers who analyzed how personal data spreads across the web, a broker can typically uncover your full name, home address, family members, and portions of your financial history. A single sign-up form, one moment of convenience, can distribute your number across dozens of separate databases within weeks. And once it is out there, retrieving it is nearly impossible. This is not a theoretical privacy concern. This is the supply chain that feeds scammers their raw material, according to Fraud. Org's 2025 report, phone calls ranked as the second most common contact method used in scam complaints, accounting for 26% of all reported cases. That means more than 1 in 4 scam complaints in the United States involved someone calling a victim directly, using a number they obtained from somewhere. That somewhere, in a significant number of cases, traces directly back to data that was scraped, harvested, or purchased from the same broker networks that your Android apps are feeding right now. And the scammers are not amateurs. This is an industry. Once a scammer has your phone number, the attack surface expands dramatically. At the lower end, they can call you and attempt to impersonate a government agency, your bank, or a trusted organization. They can send you text messages, known as smishing, containing links designed to capture your login credentials the moment you tap them. These messages are increasingly sophisticated, personalized with your name, your bank's actual branding, even references to recent transactions scraped from other leaked data. But the really dangerous scenario, the one that most people do not see coming until it is too late, is called a SIM swap. Here is how a SIM swap works, and why it represents one of the most devastating forms of identity theft currently operating at scale. A criminal, armed with your phone number and a small amount of additional personal information easily assembled from broker databases, social media, or a prior phishing interaction, calls your mobile carrier. They impersonate you. They tell the customer service representative that they lost their phone and need the number transferred to a new SIM card. In many cases, with social engineering techniques that have been refined over years of practice, they succeed. And in the moment that transfer happens, your phone number belongs to them. Think about what that means in practice. Every two-factor authentication code sent to your number now goes to them. Your bank sends a verification code, they receive it. Your email provider sends a reset link via SMS, they receive it. Your investment accounts, your cryptocurrency wallets, your insurance portals, anything secured with your phone number as a backup authentication method is now accessible to whoever is holding that SIM. Security researchers at Aura describe the phone number in this context as a digital master key. And once a SIM swap is complete, the attacker holds that key. Account takeovers that would normally take hours of brute forcing can happen in minutes. Life savings have been drained, businesses have been destroyed, identities have been completely hijacked, all because of one phone number that entered one wrong database through one careless app permission on one Android phone. But here's what makes this even more alarming. Google, to its credit, has begun acknowledging the problem. In May 2025, ahead of Google I/O, the company announced a sweeping set of new Android security features specifically targeting phone scam operations. Among the new protections were in-call restrictions for Android 16 that block users from side-loading apps during an active phone call with an unknown contact, and prevent granting accessibility permissions to apps while on such calls. The announcement acknowledged directly that phone scammers often try to manipulate users into taking specific actions, changing security settings, granting elevated permissions, and that these actions result in spying, fraud, and abuse that gives attackers deeper access to the device. Google also announced expanded protections for screen sharing scenarios, warning users when they launch banking apps while screen sharing with an unknown contact, a growing attack vector where fraudsters impersonate financial institutions and guide victims into transferring funds while watching their screen in real time. These are meaningful steps. But read carefully what they are protecting against. Actions you take during a call with someone who already has your phone number. That is a defensive layer built at the moment of contact. But the breach, the moment your number entered that scammer's database in the first place, happened silently, months or years earlier, through apps and settings you never thought twice about. The real story is what happens before the call ever comes in. And this is where the specific Android settings you need to change right now become critical. The first and most important action is to find and delete your Android advertising ID. Most Android devices, you navigate to Settings, then Security and Privacy, then Privacy Controls, then Ads. There you will find an option to delete your advertising ID entirely. Not disable it, delete it. This single action substantially reduces the ability of third-party trackers and data brokers to profile you using your phone number as a connecting identifier. It does not remove data already collected, but it severs the pipeline going forward. According to the EFF's guidance on Android privacy, this is among the highest impact privacy changes an Android user can make. But you are not done. Not even close. Navigate to your Google account settings on the device. Go to Data and Privacy, find Add Personalization. If it is turned on, and on most devices, by default, it is, turn it off. This stops Google from using your phone number and device activity to build advertising profiles and prevents the sharing of those profiles with third-party advertising partners. It is a separate layer from the AAID, but part of the same ecosystem. Now, go to your phone application. Open the settings menu inside the app itself. Find the caller ID and spam protection settings. Depending on your device manufacturer, Samsung, Google Pixel, OnePlus, Xiaomi, or any of the dozens of others running Android, this section may look slightly different. But what you are looking for is the option that controls whether your number is being shared with spam detection networks. These features sound helpful, and they offer a genuine benefit in filtering scam calls. EARs. Understand what you are enabling before you leave default settings in place. Navigate. But the mechanism by which they work involves transmitting call data and, in some implementations, contact information to external serve further into your general privacy settings. Android includes a privacy dashboard, accessible through Settings and then Privacy, that shows you which apps accessed your camera, microphone, location, and contacts over the past 24 to 72 hours. Open it, look at the list. You will likely find apps accessing sensitive permissions at hours and in contexts that have nothing to do with why you installed them. A flashlight app accessed your contacts at midnight. A game accessed your location while running in the background. A photo editor made a network request that transmitted data to an analytics server. This is the reality of the permission landscape on Android. Every one of those background accesses is a potential vector through which your phone number can travel outward. Go through your installed apps systematically. For each app, navigate to Settings, then Apps, then select the app, then Permissions. Revoke any permission that the app does not genuinely require to perform its core function. A navigation app needs location. It does not need your contacts. A streaming service needs network access. It does not need your microphone while it is running in the background. The principle here is minimum necessary access. And on Android, the default is maximum access unless you actively restrict it. Here is where it gets particularly important for your phone number specifically. Many apps request phone number access through the Read Phone State permission, a permission that, when granted, allows an app to read your device's phone number, IMEI, and SIM card information. On older Android versions, this permission was bundled with other telephone permissions, and many users granted it without realizing what they were exposing. Check every app that has been granted phone-related permissions. If an app has no legitimate reason to know your phone number, and most apps have no legitimate reason, revoke that permission immediately. Now address your SIM card directly. According to cybersecurity guidance from LifeLock and Keeper Security, locking your SIM card with a PIN is one of the most important protective measures against SIM swap attacks. On Android, the path is typically Settings, then Security and Privacy, then more security settings, then SIM card lock. Enabling this requires the PIN to be entered before your SIM can be transferred or accessed. If a criminal attempts a SIM swap at your carrier, even a successful impersonation call will fail if the account also requires a SIM PIN that only you know. Contact your carrier directly and ask them to add a port freeze or account PIN requirement for any number transfer requests. Many carriers now offer this as an additional layer of anti-swap protection, though you have to specifically request it. Enable spam protection in Google Messages. Open the app, tap your profile icon, go to Messages settings, scroll to spam protection, and enable it. Then go to your phone app and ensure that filtering for unknown callers is active. On Android, this is typically found under Phone Settings and then Blocked Numbers, where you can enable blocking of unknown and private numbers. These filters will not stop every scam call. The infrastructure feeding scam operations is too large and too adaptive for any single filter to catch everything, but they add meaningful friction that reduces your exposure. Consider using a secondary number for any situation where you are required to provide a phone number to an online service, a retail app, a giveaway, or any commercial platform. Google Voice provides a free secondary number that can be used as a buffer, keeping your primary number, the one connected to your bank and your most sensitive accounts, out of the commercial data pipeline entirely. This single behavioral change, applied consistently going forward, can dramatically reduce the rate at which your primary number spreads across broker databases. Install a reliable spam call blocking application. Services like Hiya maintain constantly updated databases of known scam numbers and can identify and block calls before they reach you. The key here is choosing an application from a provider with a strong audited privacy policy, because the irony is that poorly designed spam blocking apps can themselves become data collection vectors. Read the permissions, read the privacy policy. If an app claims to protect you from data exposure while simultaneously requesting permission to read your contacts, your call logs, and your location, that is not protection. That is a different form of the same problem. Periodically clear app data for applications that store contact information or have requested sensitive permissions. Go to Settings, then Apps, select the relevant application, and choose Clear Data. This removes locally stored information that could be accessed if the app is compromised, the device is stolen, or the app developer suffers a breach. Given that 91% of Android apps write personally identifiable information to local storage, this is not an abstract precaution. It is a direct response to a documented behavior pattern affecting the vast majority of the platform's application ecosystem. Now zoom out and consider the scale of what has been described here. Over 3 billion active Android devices worldwide. An ecosystem where 9 out of 10 apps contain third-party trackers. A data broker industry that can reconstruct your identity, your family relationships, and portions of your financial history from a single phone number. A SIEM swap threat that has matured from a niche cybercrime technique into an industrialized operation conducted at volume. Mobile malware surging by 151% in just the first half of 2025. And a device you carry everywhere, connected to every sensitive account you own, pre-configured by default to feed the system that enables all of it. This is not a coincidence. This is the architecture of the attention economy operating exactly as designed. Except the design was never explained to you, and the people who benefit from your phone number traveling through that architecture include not just advertisers and analytics firms, but the criminal networks that purchase or steal data downstream from them. Between your current vulnerability and meaningfully reduced exposure is 30 minutes wide. But here's the question that should be sitting uncomfortably at the back of your mind right now. If these settings are so important, if the risks are this well documented, this serious, this measurable, why are they not the default? Why does every Android device ship with the advertising ID active, with ad personalization enabled, with maximum app permissions, as the path of least resistance? Why does a user have to navigate 4 or 5 layers deep into settings menus to find the option to delete a tracking identifier that feeds the same ecosystem that eventually delivers their number to scammers? The answer to that question involves billions of dollars in advertising revenue, the economics of a platform that is free to consumers precisely because it monetizes their data, and a regulatory environment that has been debating meaningful mobile privacy protections for years without arriving at a structural solution. Google is adding new security features. That is real. The in-call protections announced in 2025 represent genuine engineering investment in user safety, but new defensive features built on top of a system that remains permissive by default are not the same as changing the default. And changing the default would mean changing the economics, which means the gap between what is technically possible and what is actually configured on the 3 billion Android phones in circulation right now will continue to be measured in compromised accounts, drained bank balances, and stolen identities until the owner of each individual device takes 30 minutes to close it themselves. The phone in your pocket is more powerful than any computer that existed 20 years ago. It knows your location, your contacts, your financial institutions, your communications. It is the most intimate and most connected device most people have ever owned. And right now, in its default configuration, it is quietly working against the interests of the person who paid for it. You now know what is happening. You know which settings to change. You know the specific sequence of steps, the advertising ID, the app permissions, the SIM lock, the spam filters, the secondary number, the privacy dashboard audit, that collectively close the most critical vulnerabilities in your device's default configuration. The question is not whether you are at risk. The data is clear on that. The question is how much longer you are going to leave those settings the way they were when you first turned the phone on, and whether the next call you receive from an unknown number represents nothing more than an annoying interruption or the beginning of something you cannot easily undo. Because somewhere right now, a system is running. It is automated. It is patient. It does not need you to make a mistake today. It is simply waiting for the data it already has about you, your number, your carrier, your bank's name, your account patterns, to be assembled into a complete enough picture that the call it places to you will be the one that works. How much of that picture has already been painted? That is the question nobody around you is asking, and the answer is already sitting inside your phone's settings, waiting for you to look.